So what's the biggest reason so many truly innovative companies fail? Is it their product? The team? The funding? Well, it might just be something you're completely overlooking. Today, we're going to talk about discoverability and why being easy to find is the new critical advantage, especially in a world that's being totally reshaped by AI.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. You've spent years, maybe a decade, and poured millions of dollars into a world-changing technology. The science is solid, the data is just incredible, you've got the solution. But what if no one can find you? What if to the very people who matter most, your investors, your partners, your buyers, it's like you don't even exist?
Let's use a really high-stakes example to make this concrete. The source material asks this critical question, and honestly, it applies way beyond just one industry. Why do most biotech startups, these companies with brilliant breakthrough science, end up failing? And the answer is, well, it's kind of a gut punch. It's almost never because the science is weak. It's invisibility. They fail because the right people simply can't find them or understand them or tell them apart from all the other noise out there. Turns out their biggest competitor isn't another company, it's just being completely overlooked. So, if being invisible is the problem, what's the solution? Well, the answer comes from some really fascinating research by the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute. They've identified two critical forces for growth. And it's not just about being memorable, it's about actually being available. To really get this, let's use a super simple analogy. Picture yourself walking into a grocery store to grab something for dinner. You scan the aisles and, almost without thinking, you grab a familiar brand. Now, why that one? Well, that decision was shaped by two different factors long before you even walked in the door. And this is where it all clicks into place. On one hand, you have mental availability. That's about being easy to remember. It's the brand that just pops into your head. And, most marketing lives right here. But on the other hand, you have the part that everyone forgets, physical availability. Is your brand actually on the shelf, easy to find and easy to buy right when someone is looking? I mean, you could be the most memorable brand in the world, but if you're not on the shelf at that moment of truth, you can't be chosen. Game over. Okay, so how do we take this idea and apply it to the complex business world, where the shelf isn't a shelf at all? It's this confusing maze of digital channels, conferences, and sales calls. Let's break down how we can build a practical framework for becoming easy to find. So this framework boils physical availability down into three simple pillars. First up, presence. Are you even showing up in the right places? Second, prominence. Okay, if you are there, does anyone actually notice you? And third, portfolio. Once they see you, is your story clear enough for them to actually choose you? Let's dig into each one. Now, what's really eye-opening here is the huge gap between where we think our buyers are looking and where they actually are. Most companies, they show up to a big conference, they check the presence box, and they think they're done. But in reality, your buyers are looking in scientific databases like PubMed, they're on LinkedIn, and more they're using AI search tools. If you're only visible in one or two of these places, you're pretty much invisible. Okay, so you're present. Great. But now you need prominence. And the source material makes this fantastic distinction. On one side, you've got rented prominence. That's paying for a top search result or a big flashy conference booth. It's a temporary sugar hit. The second you stop paying, poof, you vanish. But owned prominence is totally different. That's about building a distinctive, recognizable identity so that buyers can find you on their own. It's a real asset, something you actually own. And finally, the third pillar, portfolio. This chart, wow, it says so much. For a typical company, a single core hero product drives about half of all the revenue. Yet we spend so much energy talking about 19 other things in our portfolio, which just creates a ton of confusion and noise. Here's a great way to think about it. Buyers, whether they're investors or customers, they build these mental shelves in their brain to categorize solutions. Now, if your story is a cluttered mess with 5 different platforms and 12 value propositions, they can't figure out which shelf to put you on. So you know what they do? They just don't. They move on to a story that's way easier to understand. Now, just when we're starting to get a handle on all this, the entire game is changing again, and it's happening faster than ever. This whole idea of discoverability is being completely redefined, and it's because your audience, well, it's no longer just human. I mean, really think about that for a second. All those carefully crafted pitches and beautiful slide decks are now being filtered and judged by a totally new kind of buyer. That's right, tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google's new AI-powered search are becoming the new gatekeepers. So when a potential partner asks an AI, hey, summarize the key players in this specific scientific field, is your name even going to show up? Because here's the thing. These AI engines, they don't care about your clever tagline. They are scanning the entire internet for signals. They're looking for clarity, for authority, for consistency. If your scientific story is a jumbled mess online, if your value is unclear, the AI will just skip right over you. And if the AI ignores you, your human buyer will never even know you exist.
Okay, so what do we do about this? We can't just throw our hands up. The point is, we need a new blueprint for this new reality. So let's pull everything we've talked about together into 5 clear, actionable steps you can use to engineer your own discoverability.
So here it is. Let's call it your AEO, or Answer Engine Optimization Blueprint. First, increase your presence way beyond just conferences. Next, build that owned prominence with a simple, distinctive identity. Third, you've got to clarify your portfolio. Cut the noise. Fourth, start treating events like content multipliers, not one-offs. And finally, number 5, you have to consciously optimize all your content for these new AI gatekeepers. When you boil it all down, it forces a fundamental shift in how you think, and this final quote just says it perfectly. You're not just competing for a transaction anymore. You're competing for attention, for memory, and for access. In a world where amazing science and great ideas are literally everywhere, the ultimate advantage isn't being the best, it's being the easiest to find.